A spiritual guide for Pisces. Dear fellow Pisces, with all my love and appreciation, I want to encourage you. I want to help you because I know life might not be easy for you. In the short guide, I shall address the challenges you might face that me as Pisces, Mercury and Mars have been facing myself. As a Virgo moon, I will give some instructional tested tips that will help you to balance your sensitivity and tap into your magnificent power. Let's address spaciness and distraction first, one of the key characteristics of Pisces. It is not just something that hinders physical actions and routines. It is also affecting your mental health. You might look like a space cadet performing regular routines. Others might even laugh at you, which makes things even worse. 2 plus 2 is not always 4 for you, when the barrier between you and the surrounding reality is so thin. Enough debris of the universe accumulates to generate the fifth stick in the equation. Flooded images and memories of emotional nature can make you anxious, depressed. What comes helpful here, dear Pisces, is grounding, strengthening the barrier between you and the surrounding world, so that the material you sense so vividly, emotions, images, energies, do not overwhelm you. You can start from simple focus-enhancing meditations, some organizations, learning to say no or stop to some experiences that pull you in. You will see how with some effort you too can have some success navigating this world. Seeing some fruit of your labor, others and you yourself might be happy. You become a little more worldly. But eventually worldliness feels so unnatural to you. Keeping up with the physical world's requirements might demand constant effort, and eventually you might get back to square one, where you feel spacey and adrift or completely out into your fantasy world. We see a certain separation here between the physical world and your inner world, that in its highest expression can be called as consciousness. However, you, better than anyone else, know that this split actually doesn't exist. You might be conditioned to think it does. Others are less sensitive and find it easier to maintain that split in their heads. But this split is only an illusion. Eventually, consciousness hits those people with both barrels. They might be too insensitive to see it as consciousness, and to them it manifests as a disease or some sort of disaster. Luckily, it wakes some people to see what is truly behind the physical chaos they experience. So having in mind that the split between the physical world and consciousness does not exist, how do you navigate that? How does it look practically? Theoretically, we can describe it as realization of oneness. You, dear Pisces, have an inherent capacity to sense that any action is an act of God or any other higher power, depending on how you might call it or what you believe in. There is another reality beneath an action, and you have a great capacity to be in touch with it. So don't just chop those carrots to finally get to your book, meditation pillar, or whatever, where you actively relate to the more subtle energy. But do it here and now. Otherwise, you will get miserable or overwhelmed by the daily. When you will not be able to cultivate consciousness in daily actions, you will start doubting the ultimate power of what you believe in. Because despite how hard you practice your spiritual routines, their power will get limited to balancing your blank spots, your insecurities, your neuroses, but not lifting you higher. Higher to the essence, higher to the consciousness itself. Let's come back to the quest how the concept of oneness can look practically. The mindfulness curriculum offers a concept of informal practices where mindfulness is cultivated of the caution in our daily activities. That can be washing the dishes, walking. Being mindful and focused might be an ideal state of mind because it indicates cohesive brainwaves. But maintaining it in a daily world oftentimes becomes impossible. Events and tasks press onto us, demanding our attention. Even when, let's say, I'm ruminating on something. How do I know when a good thought pops up? So how do I stop the trivial thoughts? To refrain from unnecessary distractions, you need to have faith, which is not scientific, so not in the manual of mindfulness. Faith can be cultivated and sustained through various religious and secular modalities and their practices. However, even the more spiritual types of people, like Pisces, might struggle with the cultivation of faith. Paradoxically, those types especially. And this is because we can tap into the sources of very high and intense energy, and our bodies are not ready to endure this. Our holding patterns that help us survive and adapt, our negative thoughts and presumptions, they all have imprints in our body that hinder the total acceptance of light. The more negative our experiences, the more rigid our body patterns that crack and tear when we come in touch with high energy. Thus people faint, get agitated, or jump through the roof while meditating. After the practice, it is also hard to maintain the energy and face the things loosened up in our psyche. To deal with these bumps, it is good to accept and understand what got triggered. Maybe get some support and take things slow. Find the meditation that fits you. For me, as a more distracted and dispersed Pisces, single focus meditations did not become my favorite. They did ground me though and get me out of the initial chaos. However, overall it was a struggle to have so much going on in life and leave it behind the door, gathering all my attention to one single point. Those meditations also lack the transcendental element, faith in something bigger that we Pisces often long for. Some intense, more exotic practices like Kundalini awakening seem too intense to embark on, especially since I struggled with mindfulness practices to begin with. Fortunately, I did discover realization process meditation, where there is some focus which is not that rigid. Also, it is somatic, that is body-oriented, and the unpleasant bodily responses that are usually activated as a defense mechanism are addressed. So it is a very holistic meditation that does not limit to the restraint of mind. It generates focus, fluidity, openness, greater sensitivity and stability at the same time. We do not suppress what our body tries to tell us, and yet we soothe those signals, allowing them to dissolve in the pervasive space of fundamental consciousness. Attunement to fundamental consciousness, I must admit, is a very subtle process, thus not a panacea in every situation of our daily lives. Life and its events can oftentimes seem too gross to be pervaded by fundamental consciousness, which is so subtle. And the most profound yogic method to access the subtle through the gross is the breath. Breath regulates heart rate and our mind when life seems too gross and chaotic. It gives a direct access to our autonomic nervous system. Tackling autonomic nervous system through breath can not only calm us but also activate, which is not less important. When it seems nothing crazy is happening, the polar enemy of stress, laziness and sluggishness creeps in. To be honest, I'm not sure which is worse. Stress can make us feel we've accomplished something. Maybe that is why a lot of people get hooked on stress cycles. Whereas sluggishness just makes us feel our life is going down the drain, that there is no energy for anything. We use stress, drama, and shots of dopamine or stimulating substances to get out of that groundhog burrow. And yet, we become dependent. Dependency might sustain us, but it does not allow us to tap into higher realms. We might work, get through life, even create, but that costs so much energy. We deplete our own resources and resources from the outside. The planet Earth, enduring our exploitation, is a sad face of this predominant reality. In order to create something of a more lasting, higher value, we don't take the light or energy. We become the light ourselves. We allow it to purely shine from within, and we trust its power. That doesn't mean we cannot use any external things to support ourselves. However, we should not become dependent on them. We should use meditation, breath, and other inner techniques to unveil much greater power within. So you, dear Pisces, who can be so hooked to substances or ways to distract oneself, remember, you are also a creator. You can channel the light and express it through your work or great manifestations. Shed all the external dependencies so you can unlock the greatest potential of your own creative power. Make this creative power your focus, not just a distant ideal, and let your life revolve around it. Otherwise, life will take over with its mundane demands, and again you will have to come back to step 1 of grounding. Simply grounding yourself probably won't be enough for you. You will long for contact with higher consciousness. I wish you great strength and determination in your spiritual path. Your body and mind might send some resisting signals along the way, but do not give up. Find practices that suit you and accommodate this resistance instead of trying to surpass it. All the best on your spiritual journey.